Hello everyone, my name is Jim Louderman and I'm a collections assistant in the Gans Family Collection Center at the Field Museum. So one of the ways that we collect insects for our surveys is we set out traps called carrion traps. And carrion traps are just a bucket that you would get 2 pounds of potato salad in. We put them in the ground, we put some trap fluid, and we use propylene glycol because propylene glycol is not toxic to vertebrates. So if a squirrel or a raccoon or a deer gets into it and drinks the fluid, it won't hurt them. But when the insects fall into the bucket, they drown. And then we bait the trap with 4 ounces of chicken liver wrapped up in gauze and hung over the top of the bucket. And then we put a piece of plywood over it in order to keep the rain from getting in and flooding the traps out. So we found all kinds of things up in Joe Daviess County that are really important. Things like this beetle right here, which is called Phanius vindex, and it's a dung roller. And these, I'm getting a little glare, these beetles right here, down at the bottom here, these beetles right here, which are called Necrophorus immaculatus, those are beetles that are considered to be prairie habitat quality indicators because they are only found in high quality prairies. And we found both of those beetles in an 87-acre restored prairie in Joe Daviess County. We also found this beetle up here, which is called Platydracus maculatus, and it is a staphylinid or rove beetle, and that particular species of beetle was thought to be extirpated or extinct in the state of Illinois. Hadn't been seen in Illinois for some 60 to 70 years. But in 2014, I collected all of these beetles in this tray over one summer, and those are both males and females, and there are 2 generations, indicating that those beetles have taken up residence in the prairie in northwest Illinois. I've since found them in 4 other prairies, so they are still in Illinois. They aren't actually gone or extirpated, and all of these things that are natural and indicators, if you don't find them in your prairies, your restored prairies will not survive. But because we're finding all of these things and lots of others, the prairies that they have been restored by the Conservation Foundation in Joe Daviess County should do well and survive for many, many years. Okay, here is another drawer, and in this drawer we have a bunch of tarantulas from around the world. We don't know what type of tarantulas they are or where they were found because they don't have any collecting data on them. But the thing that's cool is this guy right here. This wasp is called a tarantula hawk. And what tarantula hawks do is they fly around, they hunt for tarantulas, they sting the tarantula and paralyze it. They don't actually kill it, they just paralyze it. They then bury it in a burrow in the ground. They lay their egg in the tarantula, and after about 10 days to 2 weeks, the egg hatches, and then over the next 6 to 8 weeks, the larvae of the wasp eats the tarantula alive. Kind of like the thing that horror movies are made out of, right? It's really gross, but really cool. So there are lots and lots of wasps in Indiana and Illinois that do this. If you've ever seen what look like clay organ pipes on the side of a wall of a building, those are made by a little wasp called a spider wasp. And those little organ pipes have little chambers that are about 1.5 to 2 inches long. And in each chamber, there are 6 or 7 little spiders and 1 wasp larvae. And again, the spiders are paralyzed but not dead. And we know all of these spiders are paralyzed because their legs twitch and they shudder, but they can't get up and run away because they are paralyzed and they can't get away from being paralyzed ever. So there's lots and lots of things that do that. It's pretty common with wasps, and it happens all over the place. Around here we also have something called a cicada killer, and those are wasps that hunt for cicadas and do the same thing. Next, we have some little beetles. These are called Hercules beetles, and these are thought to be the strongest insect in the world. Some of the big ones, the males, weigh about 3 ounces, and the males have the horns and the females don't have horns. And these 5 down in the bottom corner are actually found in southern Indiana and Illinois. And this one right here was actually collected in in Morgan County at Morgan Monroe State Forest. So these are the biggest beetles found in Indiana. And the males have horns and the females don't. But if one of the 3-ounce males can drag about 100 times its weight, or 300 ounces, which is about 17 pounds. There's no other insect in the world that can drag that kind of weight. So these are considered to be the strongest insects in the world. Ants may be able to move more weight per their body size, in relation to their body size, but these guys can move a lot more weight than any other insect. Okay, next I've got another animal that is not an insect. Come on out of here. I'm having a hard time getting this one out. This, when I get it out of here, this is a scorpion. It's being a little bit too active today. It won't settle down. Come on, scorpion, settle down. There we go. This is a flat rock scorpion. These are found in Tanzania, and these are scorpions that really don't sting because they spend their whole life under rocks, and so they have not developed the habit of stinging. They can pinch, but their pinch doesn't hurt very much, and if one of these did sting you, its sting is about as strong as a mosquito bite and lasts about 2 seconds. But scorpions do something that's kind of cool. If you have an ultraviolet light and you shine an ultraviolet light on them, whoa, there he goes again. He's being way too active today. If you have an ultraviolet light and shine an ultraviolet light on scorpions, they glow blue to blue-green. And the reason for that is scorpions are active at night when there is no ultraviolet light, but this is what scorpions see when they see each other. And every species of scorpion glows a little bit different color, so when males see females of the same species, it's part of their mating rituals, and they can mate with them, and when they find scorpions of a different color at night, even though there is no ultraviolet light, they leave them alone so that they don't get killed. So, in the course of my research up in northwestern Illinois surveying restored prairies, we have found in the first prairie that we restored, or that we surveyed in 2014, we found over 2,000 species of insects and spiders. Of those, about 368 were spiders, and of those, 27 were what are called state records. They've never ever been found in Illinois before. So those 27 species of spiders only live in prairies, and because no one has been doing prairie surveys, because there is so little prairie left in Illinois, we found all of these spiders for the first time ever in Illinois. We have since surveyed 5 other prairies, and we are now up to having 76 species of spiders that have never ever been found in Illinois, and our total count of insect and spiders is up to about 33,200 species, which is a lot for just a few small restored prairies. But the way these insects are getting to these prairies is there is one remnant prairie in what used to be an army depot. It's called the Savannah Army Depot, and it was a munitions depot that was closed a number of years ago, and there is a remnant prairie in there. So we're pretty sure that these insects have been living in this remnant prairie and finding their way to all the prairies that are being restored by the Joe Davies Conservation Foundation. So any place that there is any kind of a remnant, if you do restore native areas or natural areas, insects, spiders, millipedes will find their way back to these prairies. Also in these prairies we have found a lot of millipedes, and over the last few years it's been discovered that if you don't have millipedes, surprisingly, in prairies, the prairies will not survive. And the reason for that is the millipedes are pretty much the lawnmowers of the prairie. In the fall, when the plants die, millipedes cut down all of the dead plants so that the subsoil organisms can make them decay and keep the prairies fertile. So without the millipedes, the plants don't fall over, they don't decay, and the prairies go infertile. So millipedes, surprisingly enough, are very, very important to have in prairies. Okay, these guys. Everybody likes zombies, right? These little worms in this file, these worms are zombie makers worms. And what they do is they're called horsehair worms because they look kind of like the hair on the mane or the tail of a horse. And they live in ponds, and over the winter they get to be about 18 or 20 inches long. They become adults, they mate, and in the spring, when the ponds flood, these come out of the pond onto the grasses and plants that are underneath of the water in the flooded part of the pond and lay their eggs. When the pond recedes, the grasshoppers eat the grass and the eggs of the worm. The worm hatches, and it's only about, an inch long, and it lives in the gut or the stomach of the grasshopper all summer and gets to be about 8 or 10 inches long. In the fall, in mid-September, the worm takes over the brain or the nervous system of the grasshopper and makes the grasshopper jump back into a pond so that the worm can come out the butt of the grasshopper, become an adult over the winter, and start the process all over again. And these were collected in a really, really exotic place. They were collected in Galena, Illinois. So these also live right here in Lake County, but the important and good news about them is they can't transfer to anything but grasshoppers. So if your dog or an animal or even a human eats a grasshopper that one of these worms is living in, the acids in the stomach of the animal will just digest the worm, giving a little bit of extra protein. In these 2 jars, these are millipedes from Madagascar. These are ball millipedes, and they can roll up into a ball to protect themselves. A few years ago, we had a postdoc at the museum who worked in Madagascar collecting millipedes and bringing them back. And in his 3 years at the museum, he described almost 300 new species of millipedes. So both of these millipedes are what are called holotypes. And holotypes are the first one of a species ever seen by man, and the published species description is written by looking at these millipedes. And the little vials have the genitalia and legs that were dissected in order to do drawings for the publication. I always kind of thought this big, scary one was cool, but this one is really cool, but because of his name. His name is Zoospherium Darth Vaderi. So he's Darth Vader's millipede. And I always thought the big, scary one should be Darth Vader, until I looked closely at this one and found out he has a hood that goes over his head, like Darth Vader. Thank you everyone for coming today, and I hope you enjoyed seeing a few of my critters and a few of the specimens from the Field Museum. Thank you very much, and have a good day.